So hey guys, not a whole lot of news to report, which is mostly my fault, but I've been kind of busy and working on a few things lately. But hopefully I will have something to discuss soon. Mostly it's not that things aren't getting done, but it's a lot of question about exactly what to do with them, how to present them, so on and so forth. Plus the fact that at least, and something I'll discuss in a later video, is that my Patreon is down to a single person, which is not not really a surprise, I guess, but something that I'm going to take as an opportunity to reconfigure it and see if I can tweak it while I don't have any tiers that actually require me to produce anything. So I'm going to, kind of like I've been doing with this time off, take the opportunity to brainstorm for a little while, see exactly what I can do, and hopefully get myself into a better, more stable position, because I too easily let myself fall out of patterns, and I'm going to try not to do that, mostly just because I think it's good for me to at least be steadily doing things. And I need to. I'm still working on all that, but a few things that I do have to announce. I'm working on what I am tentatively calling the comic book project, because among other things, I needed some more space for my Eaglemoss ships, because if you guys don't know, uh, let's see, let me just grab this one here. I collect a lot of ships from Eaglemoss. This is the Glen, which is of course the similar class to the USS Discovery. It's the Crossfield class, and of course, as a result of me collecting these things for at least a couple of years, I have need of a lot of shelf space. Well, I discovered that at least one of those shelves was full of comic books, both furry and otherwise, that I had been collecting over the years, and it occurred to me that bookshelves are not perhaps the best display method for comic books, because for one thing they're heavy. Two, they also are you can't read the spine, so you can't really tell what you have, and as a result I kind of forgot about a lot of these comics. So over Christmas, Shag bought me a box of comic book storage plastic bin, and I bought some bags and boards, and over the course of several weeks have just been a dozen a night or so, taking them, putting them in the bags, and filing them away in an appropriate category, so that this way I'll know exactly what I have and where to find it. And some of these I might even want to read again, because a lot of them were really good. And it's like, some, in addition to the fact that I just needed shelf space, my parents have also sent me about 5 boxes of the comic books I used to collect as a kid. So this is sort of a doubly good reason to organize and collect all these into a findable, readable, identifiable, indexable source. So that's what I've been working on, a little bit at a time, just just a little bit every night, just to move it forward. And eventually, I hope to get them all nicely organized so that I can just find what I'm looking for when I want to find it. And among some of the things I found is some comic books I forgot they even made, like the Super Mario Brothers. And I also found, let's see, what was it? Oh yes, Star Trek and X-Men crossover, which was kind of something that doesn't seem like it would naturally follow per se, but it worked really well, and I remember I really enjoyed it. They had one based on the original series and one based on the Next Generation, because at the time this was like a long time ago. And if despite the fact that they're not exactly concepts that may perhaps go hand in glove, they really work well together. And with Star Trek and X-Men, they had at least two comic crossovers and a novel called Planet X by Michael Jan Friedman, if I remember correctly. And it was also a good book. And of course, quite a few times they make fun of the fact that, in the novel anyway, that Captain Picard looks an awful lot like Professor X, which of course by that time the original X-Men movie had been out, and I think everybody assumed that it would make sense for Sir Patrick to play Professor X, because I couldn't think of any other actor at the time that would have made sense for that. But anyway, I have found a lot of furry comics that I haven't looked at in forever. Some of them I probably won't, but some of them it's nice to see again. and it's just been nice going through them all. Also, I have a little bit of news to share as far as updating all of my identification and my paperwork. And I briefly thought about making this a separate video just because it was part of the my whole journey. But honestly, it just seems like, at least for the sake of since I'm trying to produce regular vlogs coming starting in this February and getting back into that and keeping that up. Hopefully, I can do that every 2 weeks, which we'll see. But hopefully, every 2 weeks will be enough to have information to share, at least a few topics. And it's one of those low pressure, relatively easy videos to produce that I can do without too much burden on me, and also, hopefully keep up a regular release schedule. I've gone back and forth about how often, what to do, so on and so forth. And although during December I attempted to release 3 a week, or at least I think it was December, might have been November, it was, of course, unsustainable because once I finally go back to work, I'm not going to be able to produce that many videos a week unless that's all I do. And I don't want to just do that. This is intended to accentuate and also, provide a little bit more updates and accessibility. I mean, to tell you the truth, it's like usually I don't like, being asked how I'm doing because sometimes I don't have a good answer, and I always feel pressure to have a good answer, if that makes sense. But at least with the vlogs, it's easier, I guess, for me to talk about it than it is for me to write a big long journal about what I'm doing. I might do that for big announcements and things like that, but as far as just general how I'm doing, I usually don't feel like sitting at the computer typing up a journal about here's what's going on, that sort of stuff, which I find usually a little easier just to do it in a visual format. So, but anyway, back to the topic at hand. The ID changeover. After a false start and a lot of delays because of COVID, I finally have my new Social Security card. Now, the reason why it took so long, because I began this process right after I got my court order in October. At least the first time, they wouldn't let you come in for an in-person appointment. So I had to look online to try and figure out exactly what they wanted, and apparently I didn't get it right the first time. And so it took 3 weeks for them to reject it, and they sent my documents back, and I had to call them to find out exactly that it was rejected and why. And then, after a couple more phone calls, I just made clear it's like, this is exactly what I need to do, this is what I need to send in. And then I sent it into the office. And this time, at least the second time, whoever I was working with the second time sent me a receipt notice, because the first time they didn't even send anything. They just, no response, just sent my documents back with no letter inside, and that was it. There was no, your stuff has been accepted. There was no, your stuff has been rejected. No, we're working on it. Nothing. Just nothing. Just an empty envelope with just my license and the other document I sent with them. And so this time they had, yes, you're sending your documents back. And then I guess sometime early January, I got a envelope that said, or a notice that said, this is your receipt. We're processing your documents, and you should have something in a couple of weeks. And of course, a couple of weeks later, I got another mailing which included my new Social Security card. So now that that has been done, the rest of the process should go a lot faster, because I think, other than the Social Security, which I don't think we have a local office in town anyway. There's one in Texas City or something, which is the one I used, but unless you're getting one for the first time, they are not taking in-person appointments. So this is why, I had to rely on the mail and their, whatever had going on. So, that took quite a bit of time. But uh, pretty much that same day, once I got my Social Security card, I looked up how to get things updated with DPS, and apparently, because I don't have to get my license renewed right now, I'm just changing the name and the gender, that I didn't have to do too much. I just had to make an appointment, which I figured would be the case, because if you've ever been to the DPS in Galveston, it's not a big building. So you would have to, I mean, considering COVID restrictions, and given the fact that we're still dealing with the pandemic, that would be expected. I would figure that they would not do drop-ins, walk-ins, or whatever you want to call it. And it's like, I made an appointment, which really surprised me, because I was able to make an appointment for the following day, February 5th. So I made the appointment. I showed up more or less on time. I was a little nervous when I first showed up, but mostly because it's like it's a small building. It's also a small parking lot. So there weren't any spaces available when I got there. But when I came around the building, somebody must have just left because there was a space available when I came around. So I had to wait outside for about 15 or 20 minutes, and then finally, went inside to talk to somebody who discussed exactly what I was doing with them. I showed them my paperwork, and it was all relatively smooth. I had to fill out a form, which I was not able to find online, but it wasn't really that big of a deal since it was just like a sheet and a little bit of the back. And after they called me up, they did the whole thing where it's like you take a new picture, you surrender your old license and all that other stuff. They cut off the top of my old license, so now I have a temporary, and in about 2 to 3 weeks, I should get an updated copy. So, that being said, that part is underway, so hopefully in about 2 to 3 weeks I will have my license, which means I can start moving on to the next phase of just about everything. Because I'm pretty sure that the way it works is that they want your social or your license updated in order to be able to update anything else. So once I have the license and the social, I think that's when I can start going to the bank to get that information updated. I can update my DBA with the county. I can update I can probably I know there's a bunch of places I'll need to call. It's like credit card company, a few other things that I either can or should contact, I guess, at some point. And maybe I'll just I'll probably just end up resulting in a lot of phone calls for a while, or office visits. But progress is progress. And the other thing that I'm currently working on right now is trying to get my car inspected, because we had to take it in for repairs a couple of weeks ago, and they offered or asked if we wanted to change out the battery. And it had been a few years, and apparently it was on the outs anyway, or something along those lines, so we said yes. Now, one thing I forgot about at the time was that when you disconnect the battery, and apparently there's some way that they can do this where it doesn't reset all these sensors, but I don't drive too much these days, especially because at least at the moment I am not commuting to and from work. And even if I were, I've run into this problem before, because a couple of years ago, all I really do is in-town driving. I never hit the highway. And with the exception of going to a movie, which we haven't done, going to a convention, which we haven't done, and so on and so forth, all things that I would normally do were COVID not a thing, as a result of which it failed the inspection because some of the sensors did not come back as ready because they hadn't been through the full drive cycle. Now, as far as I understand it, I need to drive it on the highway, which I did on Thursday, so I went back on Friday, and it failed again for the same reason. So I'm thinking, or at least I'm hoping, that I only have to do this one more time, because honestly, it's a little bit of a pain, and I was kind of frustrated when I left the dealership on Friday. I didn't say or behave nastily, I don't think, but I still wish I'd been a little calmer about it. Anyway, I'm gonna try to just look at it like one of those things that you just have to do and just kind of move forward with that. So, that being said, car is still being worked on. I have a little bit more time, but at some time early next week, I'll probably have to take another jaunt down the highway, maybe go a little further this time, and maybe take Shrag to lunch or something, and or dinner, whatever the case may be, and just get the car hopefully to pass the third time, because hopefully third time's the charm. So that is about it. That's all the news that's fit to record at this time, and I will see you guys in a couple of weeks.
Thanks for watching, and if you liked it, click the subscribe button and leave a comment below. You can also find me on Twitter and a few other places on the web, or support me via Patreon or Ko-fi. Zebra hugs!